Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Closer Look, the show dedicated to bringing you the facts. We ask the questions no one else will, and we get the answers that no one else can. I'm Aravina Apia. Thanks so much for joining us. This is the education episode. Today, we're taking a closer look at the state of Bahamian education. What does that mean? Well, it means that we're going to take a deep dive into what's happening in our schools, how those schools are performing, and what we need to do to improve the system for our children and our future. Former South African President Nelson Mandela once said that education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world. For most people, that's where the quote ends, but he goes on to say that the power of education extends beyond the development of skills that we need for economic success. It can contribute to nation building and reconciliation. A good head and a good heart are always a formidable combination. And that, ladies and gents, is the goal, isn't it? To bring up a generation of kids with both good heads and good hearts. A generation of young men and women who value inclusivity as much as diversity. A generation of good listeners and critical thinkers who will propel our little nation to new heights. Our national anthem speaks to a common, loftier goal. It is the next generation of Bahamians, students in the classroom right now, who will help us get there. But only if we help them first. Now, I'm not so naive as to think that this kind of change will occur overnight. I mean, after 2 years of a global pandemic, lagging classroom attendance, and everything in between, we have a lot of work to do. But it must be done. The future is here, and the classroom should reflect that. But what do I know? Later in the show, we'll hear from the woman at the helm of education, the Honorable Minister Glenys Hanna Martin. But first, joining me in studio today as my co-host for this very important episode is our Youth Correspondent Shamaar Nottage. Congratulations on becoming the first Youth Correspondent for A Closer Look. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It is my privilege to be here today.
Oh, it's so good to have you. So let's learn a little bit more about Shamaar. Take a look.
Meet Shamaar J. Nottage, a well-spoken 14-year-old and aspiring software engineer who is balancing life as a full-time student post-pandemic alongside a full slate of extracurricular activities.
Some of the extracurricular activities that I'm involved in are the Kiwanis Builders Club of my school. That is important to me because it helps to develop my character. I am also a part of the Focus 70 program, where they selected 70 students in the upper streams to assist in preparation for the BJC examination and to also help us to be different, to stand out from the crowd. I am also the president of the Golden Gazette, a student publication of L.W. Young Junior High School that assists me in my literary creations. I do not have a lot of time to spend time with friends, but fun, yes, I do find a lot of things fun, like reading a good book or taking a trip out to the movies or going to a park or doing something like that.
Outside of the few activities he finds fun, Shamaar said a typical day for him is packed with school duties and educational obligations.
A typical day for me would be wake up, take a bath, brush my teeth, get ready, head to school, and when I reach to school, I have to, enforce the rules and regulations of school. I am the head boy of L.W. Young Junior High School, and a lot of times I would have to walk a short walk around the school to make sure they are properly socially distancing or keeping their masks on.
Shamaar admits, however, that virtual learning during the COVID-19 pandemic was challenging, and it's a welcomed change to be back in the classroom.
Virtual learning, it affected my school life, not really negatively, but it wasn't the best. Because, sometimes the electricity would turn off, or the internet would go down, or the computer would just start malfunctioning. But I still tried my best to complete my work and in a timely fashion.
Shamaar told A Closer Look he is grateful to teachers for doing the best they could throughout the pandemic.
They tried the best that they can.
He is also happy to be the best version of himself post-pandemic, telling us he's seen himself grow and bloom academically and socially.
I've benefited most from, of course, my teachers, support staff, administrators empowering me to be a better version of myself. Of course, my social skills, they have gotten way better. My ability to communicate with others, and of course, me as a person, my character. I've learned a whole lot over these past 3 years I've been at LW Young. And I would like to say thank you to all of you who've helped me in my educational journey.
Thank you, Krishna. Shamaar, you're officially a celebrity now. Okay, what was it like being shadowed and having a camera follow you around school and all that good stuff?
It was definitely nerve-wracking. I noticed a lot of children, they ran from the camera. Yes, it was definitely nerve-wracking, but I've kind of gotten used to it.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Now, if you could interview anyone in the Bahamas right now, who would it be?
It would be, of course, the Honorable Minister herself.
Oh, well, you're in luck because we are making dreams come true today, ladies and gents. You'll have the opportunity to do just that in just a few minutes. Since coming to office in September, Minister Hanna Martin has pledged a dedicated focus on addressing the country's curriculum. Earlier this year, she was quoted as saying the following: "The curriculum must reflect our national vision and collective values as a developing people who believe that this Bahamas can be and will be, with God's help and by our fervent efforts, the finest little country on the face of the earth." She also said that the objective of this process of education delivery must be to create in our precious children and young people critical thinking, a commitment to excellence, an ethical grounding, and a proud and confident generation. I think those are very, very lofty ideals. So, Shamaar, I want to ask you, if there were some key things in the curriculum that you're learning right now that you would want changed or you would want added, what would they be?
A few years back, I would say that it would be entrepreneurship and computer studies. But as you can see now, we have those them in the school, especially like mine now.
Okay.
Another one I would say put in the schools is trades. Okay. Yes, because a lot of students they're academically challenged. But if they were to learn a trade and be good with their hands, that would be very crucial and important in helping us.
Okay, and I mean, I'm not in school, obviously, so you tell me, what are kids your age, what do you want to learn? What do you want to learn about?
I would say coding and gaming. In certain schools, I think that is happening now.
Okay.
Yeah, that's happening now.
Okay, now Shamaar, I understand that you're headed to high school. Which high school are you headed to, and what courses are you most excited about?
I'm heading to Doris Johnson Senior High School.
Okay.
And I'm excited about their graphic design program. I'm a graphic artist.
Don't put the quotes that you're a graphic artist.
Yes,
Say
I'm
it.
a graphic artist.
Yes.
And that will definitely assist me, and also I'm looking forward to the science semi-magnet program.
Very, very cool. Okay, I hope our viewing audience is enjoying getting to know Shamaar, but he will be sticking around for the remainder of the show. So Shamaar, tell us what's coming up next.
Up next is our Millennial in Government segment featuring one of my favorite teachers, Education Officer Bodine Johnson. Stay tuned.
COVID is clearly unpredictable. It doesn't matter how young you are, how old you are. I'm young, and it still put a beating on me. I had no other option but to go to the hospital. I remember the doctor telling me if I had waited one more day, I wasn't gonna come inside here alive. At my lowest point, not being there for my kids was... You don't want to be in the same position that I was in. Vaccines may not stop you from getting COVID, but it can stop you from getting COVID the way I had COVID. You don't want that way.
Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Arabina Apia, and joining me at the desk tonight is our very first youth correspondent and my co-host for the evening, Shamaar Nottage. Also joining me is our Millennial in Government, and that segment returns tonight with a young woman who wears many hats, but who at her very core is an educator whose mission has been to make learning fun and easy for her students. Let's get to know Bodine Johnson.
The Learning Resources Unit in the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training has a new millennial officer. We're here to take a closer look at who she is and what she does.
There are exciting developments coming out of the Learning Resource Unit of the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training. Its new acting education officer, Bodine Johnson, says there is much in store, with her office spearheading the curation, creation, and production of Indigenous content across all disciplines, subjects, and grade levels.
The first thing is training. I feel as though we need more in-person training for a lot of the teachers after having taught teachers for a year and a half during the pandemic and facilitated a lot of professional development activities. Some of us came in with specific skills, but every year we learn something new, and so we need consistent training in content creation. Gone are the days when we just create a chart. We created charts, we cut out the letters by hand, we glued them onto the page. This is the new chart creation, infographics.
So just who is Bodine Johnson? She brings to the Learning Resource Unit 2 decades of expertise, having been in the classroom shaping and molding young minds. She says this has made her job in the unit much easier.
They mesh very well together. What makes me unique in this space is, as someone that is an educator, I know how the curriculum works. I have taught religious studies, I've also taught English, but I've always taught them from an integrative approach. And so we would often see in my lesson plans the way that I would integrate biology, the sciences, home economics, and any of the other content areas into the space. But also, as someone that is a broadcaster and a content creator, I'm able to create small chunks of videos and content that the students can use in that lesson and be able to review and see themselves reflected in, and it supplements the lesson as opposed to is the entire lesson. And that, I think, makes the difference.
It's a job and position that she told A Closer Look is bursting with potential.
There are so many different partnerships that I would like to form with corporate Bahamas and private citizens who are specialists in their area to create specific content to our culture and to our kids that can last another 4 years, 5 years, and then we do it all over again. I'm very excited about that prospect because what we create would not just be for the Bahamas, it would be something that would rival the content that's available the world over.
And there you have it. Some crucial things developing out of the Learning Resources Unit at the Ministry of Education. I'm looking forward to another chat with Bodine to tell me what's next. I'm Krishna Russell, independent correspondent for A Closer Look.
Thank you, Krishna. Welcome to the show, Bodine.
Thank you so much for having me, Roz.
So I know that you're no stranger to the spotlight, and Bahamians across the country know you as an entertainer. The hundreds of students who you've taught know you as a teacher, but at the core of it all, deep down, you're a communicator. And I understand that you've transitioned out of the classroom and into a role as an education officer for multimedia in the Ministry of Education. So tell us, what makes you uniquely qualified for that role?
Well, Rabs, I know you know a communicator when you see one.
I do.
I am most certainly one of those persons that she talks a little bit too much on my report card.
All the time.
Which is fine. Entered a lot of poetry competitions in school, song competitions in school, but what helped me to become an excellent communicator is those English courses, English 301 at the University of the Bahamas, where Verona Seymour, she took my essays apart. That helped me to get a job with the late Sir Charles Carter at Island FM and Carter Marketing, where I was trained in technical radio production. So I'm a radio producer, trained radio producer. Later, I was seconded to the Ministry of Education, where I served in the communications department, went back into the classroom because I wanted to teach. Gotcha. I actually was part of the Bahamas Learning Channel at the start of the Bahamas Learning Channel, and just was able to work along with the Nassau Guardian, with the Tribune as a freelance writer. So as someone that has had 20 years, literally 20 years in broadcast experience, who creates my own YouTube videos, those videos there I script, edit, and I promote those, as well as somebody that has taught for almost 18 years in the public service. I don't think that there would have been many people, if any persons, that would have been as uniquely qualified as I am.
Listen, she's good for the job, okay? She's good for the job.
Ms. Johnson.
Yes, sir.
A lot of times adults go ahead and they work among themselves when they are creating new resources or making changes to the curriculum. How are you utilizing students like me to assist in your job?
That actually starts from in our classrooms. When we begin to train you in an English class, a social studies class, in a biology class to be able to answer questions, we are giving you the opportunity to communicate clearly. What's happening is we are now developing that 21st century learner, that person who is able to communicate, that person who is able to collaborate, to be creative, and to think critically.
The Ministry of Education has been committed to curriculum reform, and last month it was announced that an entrepreneurial skills and carpentry and construction technology curriculum would be introduced to students in the 8th and 9th grade. That's a big deal. So how is this new curriculum fulfilling the education mandate, and how are you supporting that mandate in your role?
Well, recently, I was able to sit with the teachers of technical and vocational studies where we did a quick seminar on how to create content that students would be able to view, whether there are students in Inagua who do not have teachers at the moment because that's such a specialized skill set. And so I was able to show them a few tips on how to create the right type of content that is visually appealing, that will demonstrate to the students clearly what needs to be done. Because the truth of the matter is, we learn a lot just visually experiencing
Most of us
things.
are visual learners.
Yes, as visual learners. And so a lot of us are able to try things independently based on what it is we see while we're online.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Bodine. It's been an absolute pleasure having you with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
After we come back from the commercial break, we'll be sitting down with the Minister of Education herself, the Honorable Glenys Hanna Martin. Stay tuned, there's more of a closer look after this.
Climate change is one of the biggest global threats to human health in the 21st century. Its impact on our lives and livelihoods are becoming more evident due to rising temperature, sea levels, carbon emissions, and intensity in storms. It is important that we all work together to better respond to and reduce the current and future impacts of climate change on health. Some things you can do include investing in energy-saving technology like LED bulbs, reducing and recycling waste, conserving water, choosing active forms of transportation like walking or cycling, and reducing your number of trips. Most importantly, be informed so that you can be an advocate for climate action.
This message is brought to you by the PAHO WHO, Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands, the Ministry of Health and Wellness, and the Healthy Bahamas Coalition.
Welcome back, everyone. You're watching A Closer Look. I'm Arabina Apia. I'm joined by my co-host, Shamaar Nottage, and tonight we're sitting down with Minister of Education, the Honorable Glenys Hanna Martin. Minister, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here tonight, joining you and this wonderful young man.
He's good.
He's good.
So, Minister, we're talking all things education tonight, and one of the first things that the Davis administration did upon coming to office was change the name. I know a lot of governments do change ministry names. Why was it important to include the technical and vocational in with the Ministry of Education?
Yeah, because it's grounded on an understanding that education is multidimensional.
Absolutely.
And in our economy, there are many areas of technical areas, digital areas, vocational areas that children are not necessarily prepared for in the school. Also, not every child is going to be a brain scientist or a brain surgeon. Different children have different talents, and this allows for the spectrum of capacity and ability to be expressed in its highest form. And it also prepares young people for what's happening in our global reality. So I think that this was a very smart new dimension to education.
Earlier in the show, we were talking about the changes that are coming to the curriculum. Education Officer Bodine Johnson was here, and she was talking about the work that her department is doing. Are there any other changes, additions, subtractions to the curriculum that you can speak
Well,
to?
I think that fundamentally the approach is that we want our young people to be critical thinkers.
Absolutely.
To think out of the box. While it's not just a place where you will get facts and information and be able to repeat it and I wouldn't say spew it out, but to regurgitate. It is a forum where a child starts pre-primary all the way to grade 12, where in that experience, that child's mind, spirit is awakened, and that they're able to think critically out of the box and able to really be innovative, to find solutions, to ask questions, so that you don't come out basically robotic in any sense or form, but that you are able to really, really see the world with eyes that are querying and analytical.
Absolutely. Minister, so the FTX conference and the government's white paper on digital assets has made things like cryptocurrency a very hot topic.
Yes.
In fact, the Bahamas is positioning itself to become a regional digital assets hub. What are the ministry's plans for including subjects related to digital assets on the curriculum?
That's a really good question.
Yes, very good question, very timely. The whole issue of computer studies is being revamped in our curriculum. And we're now thinking, we were saying grade 7 to 9, but we're now thinking in primary school. We want to expose our children, our young people, to coding, to computers, to technology, and the crypto and blockchain whole paradigm that we're now seeing is just an example of how quickly technology is shifting and changing. And that is why it's so important that when we educate our young people, that we educate them that they're able to respond, adapt, analyze, move forward. They don't get stuck in a box with any learning modality, but they're able to continue to keep up with all of the rapidly changing things that are happening in our global reality. So we will see that this will be introduced, and this is the new curriculum input. This will be introduced, and we were saying it originally grade 7 and 9, but we're now rethinking that, and we're saying in primary school, we're going to start awakening the minds of young children into this whole new technological revolution that we're seeing in the world.
Now, Minister, I understand that there are some schools that are already teaching coding. Can you tell us which schools those are? Which schools are they here in the capital? Are they in the Family Islands?
Well, there's a small element, and it's ad hoc in in terms of how it's being rolled out in our public school system. But this is now a deliberate, purposeful rollout of coding, computer studies, technology that is across the board in all schools, in our public schools, so that there's a universality on this new paradigm in our schools.
Also, Minister, will we see changes to the curriculum at the pre and primary school level?
Yes, you will. We're looking at introducing mathematics, but introducing at the primary school level things like geometry, like algebra, like spatial sense, data. All of these things are being introduced early to allow children to begin to think in abstract forms. And this is the way forward. We've inherited historically a way in which education is transmitted. It's worked well for its time, but the world has changed so much. And so we want to prepare our young people the way they think, opening their minds, unlocking their brains, so that they're able at a very early age to begin to adapt and to innovate. It's not necessarily responding to what we see there. We anticipate that our young people can innovate and create and cause for others and the world to respond to the innovation that we see coming from a Bahamian child. It's very possible, and we believe that this is something that is really lacking in how children are experiencing the school life, that they really want to think out of the box and get that, young people are into this reality. And it's very important that the school curriculum responds to the way young people are thinking how their minds are working and what is happening in the external reality.
You mentioned, I want to double back to the coding question a bit. You mentioned, we were talking about the small number of schools that are currently doing that. Is there a timeline for maybe introducing that on a wider scale? And which schools do you think would fit that sort of curriculum?
I'm not certain which public-private schools are actually doing it, but it would not be on in a comprehensive way. What we are rolling out, and we hope to introduce this in September, is coding across the board and we initially said grade 7 and 9, but we are rethinking that now. We want to get children when they're younger, and so that they're able to really, the vision is this, that the Bahamian child is brilliant, and that we have to see what we have to do to ensure that that is tapped into in a way in which we will surprise even ourselves at what we find and what we see with our young people.
Well, Minister, I think our final question for you tonight is, are there any new things that you can speak to get students like Shamaar really hype about being in school?
Well, we're trying to, the first thing is we want to really stimulate the thinking of young people. Secondly, we want to bring an emphasis and focus on the creative arts, performing arts. And we're developing a new physical education curriculum to introduce swimming, and also to have a much more structured program of young people so we can really capitalize on the physical prowess of the Bahamian child. And we're finding that everything we see tells us that the Bahamian child is tremendously gifted. And so when we see what we can call any sort of fallout, we have to be concerned about it. We have to see where systemically we can redress that, because we know the raw material, which is the child, is an incredibly talented, gifted raw material, and that it is for the educational system to refine, to stimulate, and to ensure that it reaches its full potentiality.
Absolutely. Well, that's our time with the Minister. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Shamaar, thank you so much for being here as well. How did you enjoy your first night on the desk?
It was amazing, just sitting here and listening to all of the exciting things you have planned for us students like me.
Thank you, and I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
And I'm glad for the opportunity for the entire nation to, join hands with us in the Ministry of Education to do all that we can do to ensure our children be all that they can be, the best that they can be.
Absolutely. When we return, more of a closer look and our closing argument. Stay tuned.
I'm Dr. Nakia Forbes. COVID is a very unpredictable virus, and sometimes even young and healthy people get very, very sick. I've treated these cases, and it's heartbreaking. While vaccines might not always stop the infection, they're excellent at preventing severe disease. You have questions, and doctors and nurses are now available at vaccination centers to give you answers. Help protect yourself from this unpredictable virus and make your appointment now.
If education is power, then an educated citizenry is a powerful citizenry. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe in the power of education. I believe in its ability to transform and to inspire. We've heard tonight from those at the helm, and we're excited to see those plans unfold over the next school year. Thank you to our Millennial in Government Education Officer, Bodine Johnson. Thank you to Education Minister Glenys Hanna Martin for being here tonight as well. And a special thank you to our brand new Youth Correspondent Shamaar Nottage for being such an excellent co-host, and thank you for watching. As per usual, the conversation does not end here, but be sure to chime in on the discussion by leaving a comment on our social media pages, and be sure to check out our extended social media chat with the Minister herself. Shamaar, how did you enjoy your time with us?
I really enjoyed myself, and I am excited just hearing about all of these plans that the Minister and the Ministry of Education has planned for us. I am truly excited. It was indeed an honor and a privilege being here tonight.
Well, I can't wait to see what some of the segments that you produce on behalf of the students of this country. It's going to be great.
Yes, I can't wait either.
I'm Aravana Apia, and I'll be back next week for a closer look at the stories grabbing headlines and sparking conversation around the country. Till next time, everyone, good night.